So you wanna go to war with me? You're talking like you think you're royalty. She thinks that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay. Won't look away. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Doc Zeno in the house. Jay, what's up? Chris, how you doing? AMC trading at $10.12 right now. We have the annual shareholders meeting with 8 items to vote on. And that meeting is going to be held in just a few minutes. So let me pull up. I've got the proxy here and I'll put that on the screen when we get there, but I need to pull up the phone call information and dial in so you guys can hear it. Bear with me 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. AMC Investor Relations. And then I will be back after this meeting is over, which I don't think it will be too long. After this one is over, we'll take a little break, and then I'll be back at market close. And we will we'll go over the earnings, which will be after earnings will drop after market close, and then the phone call an hour later. All right, where is that darn webcast info? November 8th. Here we go. Allow me to put in all my particulars. I saw that there was an updated 8K with some special rules about today's meeting. What do y'all think about that? Anybody heard if anyone has not been allowed into the meeting, or is everybody behaving themselves? The white beard. Yeah, I think I'm going to do no shave November, Doc. It might look pretty bad here over the next couple weeks. You're going to have to deal with it. All right, I'm dialed in. We got 8 minutes to go. Doc Zeno says, I canceled 2 client appointments for this. Oh no, Doc. Not for me, because you wanted to actually hear the results of this vote, huh? I saw that Mullen, by the way, updated their proxy. They did something that I don't recall seeing before. You know how you have the preliminary proxy, preliminary, and then right before the vote, they drop the definitive, the final. Well, in the definitive, which dropped today, they changed the date of the effective shareholders. They added a week to it. And they, surprise, they increased the float in the last 2 weeks. So the float went up from 311 million to like 400 and something now. And but that's not dilution's one thing, but changing the effective date so that they can make sure they get more of their buddies to vote the way they want. Kind of funny. So they have a reverse split vote coming up. Old Mullins. I'm not in that play. I just enjoy watching things that are out of the norm. It's fascinating, right? Ravscar, what's up, buddy? I think I'm going to light up another cigar. I haven't been doing as many evening live streams, and my the cigar club keeps on sending me boxes of cigars, and my cigar collection's piling up. So we better get back and hurry up a bunch of live streams so I can work through all these cigars. I don't just sit around and smoke them in my free time usually, but it is enjoyable while I'm listening in on someone else talk. Justin Kiefer, what's going on? Frank says -19 or -20 for the earnings. So later this afternoon, right? I think the analyst estimate is -27. And if I recall on my video that I did a month ago, I said -17. I know other people are calling for positive earnings for Q3. I'd be ecstatic if that happened, but I don't think that that's realistic. If I'm wrong, I'd love to be wrong in that direction, though, right? Cheers to you, Brav's car. Doc Zine. Cigars are not habit forming. Been smoking them for 45 years. No habits formed yet. I picked out this is a smaller cigar than I would normally buy, but since they just send me a pre-selection, it's kind of nice to have a shorter one for what I expect will be a short live stream. Three minutes to go. What are y'all expecting for earnings for Q3? I gave you my number, -17. Dots, good afternoon. Pro Magoo. FTX drop all the evidence. Yeah, I don't know. I've been waiting to see more headlines from FTX besides Sam Bankman-Fried going to jail. Tell us what did you find in your investigation? If anything. If I don't hear anything, then I'm assuming they found nothing or they want to keep it all a secret. Frank says, what would the dilution of the 40 million shares added to this? Would the dilution of the 40 million shares add to this earning period? What date? He did that and what date? I don't even remember now. Hang on one second. Unless you can type it in faster than I can look it up. I'm going to pull up my spreadsheet, and I think I already accounted for the dilution in this upcoming earnings. So I think, yes, it is included, but I'm just going to check my spreadsheet. Yeah, for Q3 in my spreadsheet, I modeled it off of 198 million shares. So that -17 cents is -$34 million divided by the shares. You guys want to see that real quick? We got 60 seconds. So I had the box office with that number we know, 2.6 billion domestic. Then with all my formulas, which are just, my best guess based on previous history and my formulas, comes out to negative 34 million. There are some one-time expenses that can change in here that are variable that I can't forecast because they're all over the map. So we could be off a little bit, but if it comes in around negative 34 billion, 198 million shares, that would be negative 1.7. Jerry Solberg, what's up? Doc Zeno says negative 15. I'll take that too. RA says, I'd like to hear the strikes are over with. They keep on teasing us with these end of day tweets. Like we're gonna keep on working on it one more day. All right, keep working on it. We need this shit done. We need this strike over with like yesterday. All right. They're starting.
Annual Shareholder Meeting and Webcast. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. It is now my pleasure to introduce Adam Aron. Thank you. You may begin.
If y'all can't hear that, let me know.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Will the meeting please come to order? I'm Adam Aron, a director, the president, CEO, and chairman of the board of AMC Entertainment Holdings, Incorporated. Welcome to the 2023 annual meeting of our stockholders. An agenda outlining the order of business has been made available. The matters on which the stockholders will be voting today are: 1, a certificate amendment to declassify the board of directors. 2, elect directors. 3, a certificate amendment to eliminate the prohibition against stockholder action by written consent. 4, a certificate amendment to remove the limitation on stockholders' ability to call special meetings. 5, a certificate amendment to expand the exculpation provision to limit the liability of certain officers. 6, ratify the appointment of company's independent public accountants firm. 7, approve on an advisory basis the compensation of the company's named executive officers as disclosed in the proxy statement. And 8, if necessary, to adjourn the meeting to permit further solicitation of proxies. I'd like to begin this meeting by introducing our current board of directors. All of them are joining by phone remotely. They are T. Clark, Paul Koch, Bill Lader, Gary Locke, Kathy Pawlus, Keri Putnam, Tony Saich, and Adam Sussman. All are present for today's meeting.
I kind of thought that they would show up in person.
The Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and Secretary of the company will serve as Secretary of today's meeting. He has delivered an affidavit of Computershare, the notice agent for the annual meeting, which states that on September 29, 2023, a notice of the meeting was mailed to all stockholders of record as of the close of business on September 25, 2023, the record date for the meeting. This affidavit will be filed with the minutes of this meeting. Mr. Connor will now discuss the procedures for transacting the business of this meeting. Kevin?
Thank you, Adam. Good afternoon. The meeting will take place as described in the agenda. We have a quorum of stockholders present in person or via proxy to conduct business. When an item of business on the agenda is before the meeting for consideration, questions and comments should be limited to that item. If you wish to make a statement about any resolution pending on the floor, please raise your hand and be recognized. Once you are recognized, please approach the microphone, state your name and whether you are a stockholder or a proxy holder. If you are a proxy holder, please state the name of the stockholder that gave you the proxy. Please keep your statements brief and limited to the specific item up for discussion. We may have to interrupt any statement that continues for an unreasonable amount of time. Speakers will be limited to an absolute maximum of 2 minutes. You may not record the proceedings today, and phones or other recording devices are not permitted in the meeting room. Anyone disrupting the orderly conduct of business or acting in a threatening manner toward AMC employees or fellow stockholders will be asked to leave the premises and, if necessary, escorted out by security personnel. If you have not already submitted your votes and would like to during the meeting, you may do so on the ballot provided to you at check-in. Ballots will be collected at the conclusion of the business items on the agenda. Any ballot not received when called for will not be counted. We will announce the preliminary results at the conclusion of the meeting. Final results will be published in an 8-K filed with the SEC. Adam.
Thank you, Kevin. The Board of Directors has appointed Eddie Gladbach and Kelly Schemenauer, both Vice Presidents in our legal office, as Inspectors of Election for this meeting. They have signed an oath to act as Inspectors of Election, which will be filed with the minutes of the meeting. The inspectors have the registered stockholder list of the company as of the record date for determining stockholders eligible to vote at the meeting. Kevin has advised that a quorum is present, so I declare the meeting duly and lawfully convened. There is considerable interest in knowing how many shares have been voted at this meeting. The number of shares that voted prior to the meeting are approximately 101 million shares, which is about 51% of the 198,356,898 total outstanding shares.
Vote, people.
That number includes broker discretionary voting on certain items, such as ratification of the auditors.
I think it's better than the historical norm, though.
On which brokers cannot submit discretionary votes without instructions from the beneficial holder. We only have about 20% participation. I would remind all of our shareholders that voting is an important opportunity for you to let your voice be heard. I encourage more of you to vote at future shareholder meetings to let your voices count. Proposal 1, Board Declassification. The first item of business is an amendment to the company's Certificate of Incorporation to declassify our Board of Directors, shortening all existing terms to expire at this meeting and make certain other immaterial changes. The amendment, along with the reasoning therefore, is set forth in the proxy statement. This amendment has been reviewed by and is supported by company's Nominating and Corporate Governance Committee and its Board of Directors. A motion to approve the amendment is now in order.
Ron Herman, a stockholder. I move that Proposal 1 be approved to amend the company's third amended and restated Certificate of Incorporation as set forth in the proxy statement.
Shill.
Thank you, Ron. Is there a second?
Adam?
Is there a second?
Ms. Pierce seconded the motion. Thank you.
Ms. Pierce was not at a microphone, so I couldn't hear her. Thank you, Cynthia. Are there any questions or comments on this motion? There being no further discussion, I hereby call the question and declare the polls open to vote on the motion. If you've not voted or if you wish to change your vote, please do so now by marking your ballot. I now declare the polls closed on this motion and we'll proceed with the agenda. Proposal 2, election of directors. The next item of business is the election of directors. However, before proceeding, we will need to determine the outcome of the vote on Proposal 1. Kevin, please provide the preliminary outcome of the vote on Proposal 1.
Thanks, Adam. Based on the proxies received prior to the meeting and the number of shares present at the meeting, Proposal 1 has not obtained the support of a majority of the company's outstanding stock and therefore has failed.
Wow.
Since Proposal 1 has failed, mostly because of the amount of non-voting shares, we will proceed with Proposal 2B to elect Class 3 directors for a term ending at the 2026 annual meeting. As disclosed in the proxy statement, the candidates for director who've been nominated by the company's Nominating and Corporate Governance Committee and by its board of directors are Denise Clark and Keri Putnam. In accordance with the company's bylaws, stockholders are required to provide advance notice of their intent to nominate candidates for director. No such notice was properly received, and therefore, no additional nominations can be accepted at this time. I declare the nominations for directors closed. A motion to elect the two nominees, D. Clark and Keri Putnam, is now in order.
John Greiner, a stockholder. I move that the nominees be elected as directors to serve until the 2026 Annual Meeting of Stockholders.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Debbie Weber, a stockholder. I second the motion.
Thank you, Debbie. Are there any questions or comments on this motion? There being no further discussion, I hereby call the question and declare the polls open to vote on the motion. If you've not voted or if you wish to change your vote, please do so now by marking your ballot. I now declare the polls closed on this motion and we'll proceed with the agenda. Proposal 3, stockholder written consent. The next item of business is an amendment of the company's Certificate of Incorporation to eliminate the prohibition against stockholders acting by written consent. The amendment, along with the reasoning therefore, is set forth in the proxy statement. This amendment has been reviewed by and is supported by the company's Nominating and Corporate Governance Committee and by its board of directors. A motion to approve the amendment is now in order.
Chris Cox, stockholder. I move that Proposal 3 be approved to amend the company's third amended and restated Certificate of Incorporation as set forth in the proxy statement.
Thank you, Chris. Is there a second?
Scott Falkenhayn, a stockholder. I second the motion.
Thank you, Scott. Are there any questions or comments on this motion? There being no further discussion, I hereby call the question and declare the polls open to vote on the motion. If you've not voted or if you wish to change your vote, please do so now by marking your ballot. I now declare the polls closed on this motion, and we'll proceed with the agenda. Proposal 4, stockholder special meetings. The next item of business is an amendment of the company's Certificate of Incorporation to remove the limitation on stockholders' ability to call special meetings. The amendment, along with the reasoning therefore, is set forth in the proxy statement. This amendment has been reviewed by and is supported by the company's Nominating and Corporate Governance Committee and by its board of directors. A motion to approve the amendment is now in order.
Cynthia Pierce, a stockholder. I move that Proposal 4 be approved to amend the company's third amended and restated Certificate of Incorporation as set forth in the proxy statement.
Thank you, Cynthia. Is there a second?
Greg Vermillion, a stockholder. I second the motion.
Thank you, Greg. Are there any comments or questions on this motion? There being no further discussion, I hereby call the question and declare the polls open to vote on the motion. If you've not voted or if you wish to change your vote, please do so now by marking your ballot. I now declare the polls closed on this motion, and we'll proceed with the agenda. Proposal 5, officer exculpation. The next item of business is an amendment of the company's Certificate of Incorporation to expand the exculpation provision to limit the liability of certain officers. The amendment, along with the reasoning therefore, is set forth in the proxy statement. This amendment has been reviewed by and supported by the company's Nominating and Corporate Governance Committee and by its board of directors. A motion to approve the amendment is now in order.
Debbie Weber, a stockholder. I move that Proposal 5 be approved to amend the company's third amended and restated Certificate of Incorporation as set forth in the proxy statement.
Thank you, Debbie. Is there a second?
Chris Cox, a stockholder. I second the motion.
Are there any Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions or comments on this motion?
Kevin.
We do have one question, Adam.
Yes.
My name is Susan Shelton. I'm a stockholder, and my question is whether or not the language that you purport to put in the revised Articles of Incorporation will have a stipulation that the liability protection that this seeks to provide will be forward-looking only and not for any past actions.
Thank you. Thank you. Before you respond, Kevin, Susan, thank you for being at the meeting in person.
I think it is forward-looking only.
And to the answer, since it's pretty technical, Mr. Connor, do you want to respond to her question?
We do not intend for the operation of the amendment to be prospective only. In other words, if a matter for which we sought exculpation happened in the past, but the cause of action arose in the future, the exculpation would apply in a retroactive basis.
Well, I was wrong.
Susan, which may affect how you vote on the question. Are there any other questions about this motion? There being none, I now declare the polls closed on this motion, and we'll proceed with the agenda. To Proposal 6, ratification of auditors. The next item of business is to ratify the appointment of Ernst & Young LLP as the company's independent public accounting firm for 2023, as discussed in the proxy statement. I'd like to recognize representatives from Ernst & Young who are joining us today. Would you please stand? Hello and welcome. Thank you for being with us in person. A motion to ratify the auditor appointment is now in order.
Scott Falkenhayn, as stockholder, I move that the appointment of Ernst & Young LLP as the company's independent public accounting firm for 2023 be ratified.
Thank you, Scott. Is there a second?
Ron Herman, a stockholder, I second that motion.
Are there any questions or comments on this motion? There being no further discussion, I hereby call the question and declare the polls open to vote on the motion. If you've not voted or if you wish to change your vote, please do so now by marking your ballot. I now declare the polls closed on this motion, and we will proceed with the agenda to Proposal 7, executive compensation. The next item of business is to approve the compensation of the committee's named executive officers. This proposal is a non-binding stockholder advisory vote. The company's executive compensation is discussed in the proxy statement. A motion to vote on the compensation of the named executive officers is now in order.
Greg Vermillion, a stockholder. I move that the compensation of the company's named executive officers, as disclosed in the proxy statement pursuant to SEC rules, be approved.
Thank you, Greg. Is there a second?
John Greiner, stockholder, I second the motion.
Are there any questions or comments on this motion?
Kevin, you have a question?
We
Yes,
have
Susan.
another question, Adam.
I know who it's from. I now know Susan.
I didn't know you could see me. Hi, how are you?
Of course I can.
Okay, my name
It's
is
like I'm there. It's like I'm there in the room. It's the new modern way.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Yes, I am Susan Shelton, and I am a shareholder. And my question is, there was a lawsuit that was settled recently with a variety of different plaintiffs, and I think their cases were all consolidated. And I forgot the names of the people, so I apologize if this is not a very helpful question. But it's my understanding that a portion of that settlement required that an additional person or additional set of people be added to the compensation committee. And my question is whether or not that has already happened, and what is the recommendation of the people that you added to the compensation committee from that lawsuit?
Kevin, could you respond?
I'll take that one, Adam. Thank you. You're referring to our stock drop case, in which was settled, and there were changes made to both our nominating and governance charter and our compensation charter. And yes, the remedial measures we undertook with those changes have been effected, and those members of the board have been appointed. It was one, and that member of the board is voting in favor of the compensation committee results. Sure.
And
Susan, would like to follow.
I might add, Susan, that The recommendations of the Compensation Committee were unanimous on all these matters.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And I guess are you allowed to share with us what the recommendations were?
The compensation for calendar year 2022 is disclosed in the proxy. And as for 2023, which is the year that we are in the middle of now, which will be reported on at year end, I can tell you that I've made prior public comments that my own compensation would be what I call red circled, which means that my salary would have no change, my target bonus would have no change, my target stock grant would have no change versus calendar year 22. How those bonuses are paid and how the stock grants are made is a function of how well the company performs against its budget, consistent with the plan. And we won't actually know until the end of the year whether the bonus grant or the stock grant will be at target, below target, or above target. That's a provision of the plan, which puts my compensation very much at risk with the company's actual performance. With respect to the other named executive officers, I recommended and the Compensation Committee approved for 2023. I don't want to say they approved it because all I want to do is repeat the public statements. I said publicly that I would recommend to the committee that that none of the senior officers receive a salary increase, although their target stock grants might change. What the committee decided with respect to that recommendation, as well as the recommendation to red circle all of my own pay, will be disclosed in the 2023 proxy, which comes out after year end.
Okay, so just so I understand, you're capping your 2023 compensation at 2022 levels is the way I understand it, and the portion that is tied to incentive, to performance, is any amount above that, or would those results bring your compensation down?
You're close to having it right.
Okay,
and it's complicated. So my salary is fixed, and again, not saying what the Compensation Committee did, but my recommendation was that there be no increase to the salary for 2023. With respect to the target bonus and the target stock grant, the actual stock grant and the actual cash bonus can go up or down, above or below the target, based on the company's performance. So we set the target for 23 exactly as we set the target in 2022. In 2022, it's disclosed in the proxy materials, the company far exceeded its budget. So the actual cash bonus and the actual stock grant were much higher than target. How we will do this year depends on how we do this year. And this year, we're only, we're 10 months of the way through, but we're not done. And the company's performance against its budget, per the terms of the bonus plan and the equity plans, will be determined at year end by the comp committee. And so I can't, as I sit here today, I can't tell you whether my compensation will go up, will stay the same, or will go down, because much of my compensation, approximately 90% of it, is not salary. It's tied to the performance of the company. I can tell you that my target compensation is much lower than my actual compensation for the past few years, because we have in fact exceeded our budgets in the last several years. My target compensation is much lower, about a third lower than my actual compensation the past several years.
I think it's all tied, their targets are tied to EBITDA, if I'm not mistaken.
Until the year is over. I do know what my target compensation is, and the target compensation is the same as it was last year, unchanged.
All right, I appreciate it.
Or at least that was my recommendation to the Compensation Committee at the beginning of the year, and we disclosed their deliberations at year end.
Okay, thank you.
If you're
There
really,
being no further
if you're
questions,
curious about the compensation, there's like 50
I
pages of
now
it in the
declare
proxy.
the
You can
polls
go
closed
read.
on this motion, and we'll proceed with the agenda. Because there is a quorum present, we have determined that it is not necessary to consider Proposal 8. There is no need to adjourn the meeting. So that concludes the business items of this meeting. If you have a ballot to be submitted, please raise your hand and the inspectors will collect it. I will say that after the meeting adjourns, I and some of the other senior officers will stay and are willing to address any other questions that shareholders have who are attending this meeting. Kevin, I understand that there is in fact a preliminary report of the inspectors of elections, inspectors of the election, and that it is ready to be unveiled. Will you please announce the results of the stockholder vote?
Thank you, Adam. The preliminary report of the inspectors of election indicates that Proposal 1 to amend the Certificate of Incorporation to declassify the board and make certain other immaterial changes has failed. Ms. Clark and Ms. Putnam have been elected as directors. Proposal 3 to amend the Certificate of Incorporation to eliminate that prohibition against stockholders acting by written consent has failed. Proposal 4 to amend the Certificate of Incorporation to remove the limitation on stockholders' ability to call special meetings has failed.
I'm
Proposal
going to guess
5
they
to
all
amend
fail.
the Certificate of Incorporation to expand the exculpation provision to limit the liability of certain officers has failed. The appointment of Ernst & Young LLP as the company's independent public accounting firm for 2023 has been ratified. The non-binding advisory vote to approve the compensation of the company's named executive officers as disclosed in the proxy statement has failed to obtain the support of a majority of shares present and eligible to vote.
Thank you, Kevin. I would point out that on many of these motions it failed. They failed primarily because of the low number of shares that are voting. And in future shareholder meetings, I would encourage all of our shareholders to actually cast their vote. The right to vote is one of the most precious acts that we have in the United States. And giving up your right to vote is painful and has consequences. On behalf of the company, again, I would like to thank all of those shareholders who did vote for their participation in this meeting, and to all of our shareholders, whether you voted or not, for your ongoing support of AMC. I hereby request that the final report of the inspectors of election be filed with the minutes of this meeting. That completes the business of the meeting, although we will take additional questions from shareholders after the meeting adjourns. A motion to adjourn is now in order.
John Merriweather, a stockholder.
Guys,
I
this
move
is
that
ridiculous.
meeting be
According
adjourned.
to some sources on YouTube,
Thank
there's
you,
like,
John. Is there
what,
a
2,
second?
3 trillion shares out there, and y'all can't vote more than 20 million?
Lisa Morris, a shareholder. I second the motion.
Where's all our votes?
All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please signify by saying no. Are there any abstentions? The motion has been carried. I hereby declare this meeting adjourned and will stay online for those of you who might have questions to ask. Thank you for joining us today. That concludes the formal shareholder
So if
meeting.
the meeting is adjourned, what about Proposal 8 to reconvene at a future date? He
Are
didn't
there
even talk
shareholders
about
here
that.
that have questions to pose of Adam? Thank you.
I can't hear you. You'll need to get the mic closer to you.
I think I muted it.
This
you
is
go.
really
Yeah.
what I want to hear, these
Absolutely.
questions right here.
My name is Corey Seaman. I am a shareholder. I'm 401 Doge on X, if you find me there, Aron, or Adam Aron. But basically, last time we spoke, I was here at a shareholder meeting, June 2022, And at that meeting, I expressed concern with the price manipulation of AMC stock. Those remain, but I just want to say thank you for taking action as far as following up with FINRA, following up with the New York Stock Exchange on the failures to deliver, which were rampant this year. And thank you for continuing the operations the way that you have, right? We've expanded the revenue streams. The credit card, it's the only one I use. The popcorn, vertical integration, along with the distribution and the partnerships we're doing there. So I'm thankful for everything that you're doing. What I would ask, my question, is that we look for, so with my price concerns, I believe that's a custodial issue. And as Gary Gensler would say, except I would say for the stock market, it's rife with fraud and manipulation. And whatever the case is happening there, I think it's healthy for our company to explore additional ways to raise capital. So in the current system, what the crux is, I want to give my money to the company, right? And I want to participate in the operations and the revenue generated thereof. But what's actually happening is the market is setting our price, not you, it's not your fault. And when they do that and they know that we're going to raise money, for some reason it goes down to rock bottom levels. And then you issue those securities to Goldman Sachs or Citibank, and those go to brokerages, and I have to give my money to brokerages to participate. And the reality is, I don't want to. I've given them $170,000 so far. It's currently worth $45,000. I'm happy as the next person to buy the dip, love buying the dip. But what I don't like is that you are not actually getting my money. And I'm not participating because, as we know, the stock price is not necessarily reflective of the operations. You guys are increasing revenues. Operations are continuing to go up.
I guess I misunderstood this, because if there
like
weren't
90%
enough,
on the year, I don't know, it's insane.
it says you would only be asked to vote on proposal 8.
There's other options, and I would appreciate if we explore them. So one, and I'm not saying this is the solution. For instance, blockchain technology. That is a public, immutable ledger, right? And right now, you can register security there. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff going on with token and tokenized stocks, and apes are going to have an uproar about it. But the reality is that's a custody problem as well. I think that FTX thing should be a public hearing. But either way, you can create a smart contract that says we're going to offer you X, and we're going to use it for this project, and you can raise those funds, and we could go wallet to wallet or whatever. Find a custodian that you trust, that we all trust. We can fix those. But if we wait for the public market to fix it, shit, we've been waiting, Adam, right? Like it could be 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And I appreciate everybody that's helping out, right? Dave Lauer and people are coming out with Lit Exchange, yada, yada, yada. But what I'm saying is if we explore additional capital raising opportunities, at least the market has to recognize that and can't guarantee the price drops when they know we have to raise funds from them. So I know that's a bit much, but I'm just expressing that concern.
Well, there was a lot in there, but number one, I want to thank you for coming to Kansas City for the meeting, as you did for the last one. I was listening carefully to what you had to say, and we will continue to explore as many creative options as we can for the betterment of all shareholders. If you look at what separates AMC from others of our competitors, Regal, which went into bankruptcy, big chain, Alamo and ArcLight, small chains, which went into bankruptcy. It has been our creativity and our willingness to explore all options that has been the reason for our success. So I continue to listen to you, and we will continue to explore all options. I share your pain as a shareholder. I am the largest individual retail shareholder of AMC. So our interests are completely aligned. If you benefit from share appreciation, so do I. If your shares go down in value, so do mine. And I have a lot of them. So we are totally focused on what we can do to drive success for this company going forward to increase shareholder value over the long term. And again, thank you for your comments and thank you for your support. Yes, Susan.
Thank you. I don't mean to monopolize the room, but I do have some questions and some concerns. So now that the reverse split and conversion have gone through, I'm wondering if you will consider changing your mind on the issue of hiring Share Intel to do a share count and not only have it a share count of what exists now, but backward looking for about 5 years. Would you consider doing that?
We have considered doing that. And I will tell you that many of our shareholders don't want to believe it, but we issue a share count every 90 days. And we did so again today. We said there are 198 million shares that are outstanding. We've looked at the services that Share Intel provides. We know that out there in the world of Twitter, it's perceived to be some magic bullet that will answer all questions and solve all problems. We've looked hard at it. We don't think that there's any actionable intelligence that will come our way if we engage them to advise us. Other questions?
Christy Harris, shareholder.
Hi, Christy.
Hi, how are you doing?
All good.
So I'm wondering if there is any comment on what appears to be very limited or no insider buying of our stock currently.
Sure. I myself have bought millions of dollars worth of AMC stock over the years, in the 8 years that I've run the company. If you look at the last couple of years, there has not been significant insider buying. Those are all individual investment decisions made by individuals about whether they think they have the right amount of AMC shares or not, whether they should have more or less. In my own case, a significant portion of my net worth is in AMC stock. I've said publicly that I have no intention of selling any of that stock anytime soon. I have not sold a single share since January of 2022. So I'm a holder. But I honestly, as I look at diversifying my assets, I think I have the right amount of my own net worth invested in AMC stock. So I'm not currently a seller, but I'm also not a buyer. I think about it all the time. I think about all the time whether I should buy or not. But I think I'm properly invested and properly diversified. As for others, those are all individual decisions that they make one by one by one. There is no concerted effort in our company to encourage officers to buy, to hold, or to sell stock, other than the requirements that we put in as a company about a year and a half ago. We didn't have any policy on whether executive officers should hold stock, and we thought it was a good idea to do so. So in my own case, I'm required to hold 8 times my annual salary in AMC stock. Executive vice presidents are required to hold 4 times their salary. Senior vice presidents are required to hold 2 times their salary in AMC stock, subject to all the particularities of the policy and the plan.
Thank you, Christy. Any other questions? I believe we have one at the rear.
Adam, how you doing? Robert here. So before the reverse split conversion that we had, failure to delivers were through the roof. Cost to borrow was maxed out in the thousands, and FTDs were running rampant. Then the reverse split conversion happened. Now the short interest is down to 2, 3, 4, 5%. And now there's as many as 3 million, 10 million shares available to borrow. Do you have anybody on your team that's looking into why that is? Or maybe even if anything going on with the FTX situation with the tokenized AMC shares, 1 for 1, back 1 for 1, may have been the root of the problem. Do you have anybody investigating FTX and the backed tokens there?
So there's one fact in your statement that was incorrect. The short interest is not 2 or 3%. It has come down from where it was previously, but it's nowhere close to 2 or 3%. It's many multiples of that currently. And we look at that literally as every single short interest report is issued every 2 weeks. I think the FTX matter has been dealt with not by AMC, but by the federal courts. And as you know, its CEO and several of its senior officers were just convicted of securities fraud. Beyond that, on this whole question of fails to deliver and other matters, we have said repeatedly that we have gone to FINRA and we have gone to the New York Stock Exchange and we have reported our concerns and we've reported them to the highest levels. I know that literally the head of the New York Stock Exchange was aware of our approaches because I heard back from her. We are a company on the exchange. We're not the exchange itself. Our business is to sell movie theater tickets and popcorn and soda and all sorts of other things. And now with Taylor Swift and Beyonce, it's to create movie content or at least concert content to be distributed globally. But the regulation of the stock markets is the job of the U.S. government and the New York Stock Exchange. It's not the job of AMC. So while we watch it closely and we report what we think needs to be reported, it's their responsibility to police the markets. It's our responsibility to run the company right.
Thank you for answering that question. And just to follow up, Adam, did you happen to have anybody on the team look at the tokenized AMC shares? And if so, who? So we can do a follow-up with them.
I'd rather not get into the details of it because I fear that that's just going to spark a whole new genre of conspiracy theories floating around on Twitter. Of course, we looked at it. And as I said, when we have concerns, we report them to the regulators. Beyond that, I think it's better for our shareholders and for the company management to focus on how can we run the company better, how can we deliver earnings, how can we innovate. And to that end, there's another event happening today at a little after 4 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be reporting our third quarter earnings. And a little after 4 o'clock Central time, we're going to be holding a conference call that any shareholder is able to sign into and listen into on a simultaneous webcast. And I would encourage all of our shareholders to read our earnings report today and listen to the earnings call, because on that call, we will address a lot of the things that the company is doing to, in fact, deliver earnings both now and into the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
I can't wait. Only about
our time together, yes?
Another hour for earnings.
Thank you, one and all.
Great. We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, so none of them passed except for 2B. I'm surprised that they could not get enough people to fucking show up and vote. So everything was an automatic fail. This is, what do we call that? When retail doesn't show up to vote? It's not just a problem with AMC. It's literally a problem with every corporation. It's worse with a company like AMC when it's mostly retail owned, which is why Delaware changed their laws for things like reverse splits. At any rate, a lot of people will be happy that some of those items didn't pass. I personally would have liked to see the board of directors brought up for a vote once a year. I'm disappointed that number 1 didn't pass, but it is what it is. So I guess this will be the last I talk of this. It's over and done. We live by the vote. What do you guys think? Dan says, I hope the South African guy is on later. Get your drinks ready, Dan, and maybe think of what our shot of, what our word of the day for shots on the earnings call will be. Tanton79, I'm going to come on live at market close. We'll get the earnings at some point, I think, after the market close, and I'm just going to hang out with you guys and shoot the shit, answer questions about anything, whatever stocks you want. But we could talk AMC too. And then at 5 p.m. Central or 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, an hour after the market close is the actual call. So we're just going to hang out for an hour. You can come on at market close, have a few drinks, smoke a cigar, or you can come on right at 5 and just listen in to the call. The tribe has spoken, Table Rock guy, yes. That's how votes go. Once the vote is done, no crying. The vote, it's done, the tribe has spoken. I like that. Whoppers is taking the lead in the poll here. We got Whoppers at 56%, Milk Duds at 45%. I wonder if Adam and Mr. Goodman are going to be smacking on any snacks in the quarterly meeting. I hope to hear no, get that popcorn away from me, Sean. Be professional. If you're new in the chat, if you weren't here when we started, drop your comment. Let me know what you think the earnings are going to be for today as far as earnings per share. Just to give you some goalposts here, analyst expectations are negative 27 cents per share. My video I published a month ago for you with my guess, my best guess for what they're going to tell us today is negative 17 cents. Ravscar says, I remember that earnings call. I feel like it's been the last 2 earnings call that they've been smacking on snacks. Emiris, hopefully I just answered your question. So I'm thinking negative 17 cents. Obviously, I would love to see a beat even better than that. And I've seen some people on Twitter forecasting positive earnings. I'm trying to be a little more realistic, although I'd love to be that hopeful. I'd love for them to be correct rather than me. And then where we go from here, once, Q3's in the bag, I am watching very, very closely the Q4 domestic box office, and it's not so far, we're 1 month in, 1 month and a week. It's not shaping up too great. I want 2.6 billion, and I think we're for the 3 months, and we're somewhere only near around 700 million 1 month in, which is going to be a big shortfall for Q4 if we don't pick it up. So go see a damn movie at AMC, folks. The best thing you can do right now, if you choose to support the company, it's not financial advice for me to tell you to go watch a movie, but go watch a damn movie and buy some concessions. I mean, literally, that is the best thing you can do. Revenue and showing that this company can have a quarter where they don't lose $200 million because domestic box office sucks. That matters at the end of the day. more than anything else, more than your share count. Good thing for me, I like to see movies. So I try and do my part. And speaking of movies, I recently saw Five Nights at Freddy's. Not really my type of movie, but I went, like I said, more out of nostalgia because I remember my youngest son, playing it when he was little. He's like, "Dad, this game's really scary." I was like, "Oh, come on." He's like, "No, seriously, like go in a dark room and put the headset on." And I tried it. It is a game. Like I know some of y'all maybe never heard of Five Nights at Freddy's. It's a jump scare type game. So just go try it one time. Don't play it in the daytime. Don't play it in a room with a bunch of noise. Just get in a dark room, put your headset on, and try it. And tell me if you weren't scared just a little bit. So I thought that they did a pretty faithful recreation of certain aspects of that movie, and they added a little bit of lore to the game. So it's doing well. I'm surprised that it's doing as well as it has been doing. Jared says the movie was lame, but the game gets you jumpy. Yeah, I remember playing it back then, however many years ago that was, 10 years ago. And it was a little creepy, not going to lie. Luis says, what does he say? He hopes the company goes bankrupt. Luis, that would hurt a lot of people if the company goes bankrupt. So I guess you hate retail investors, those that are still holding. But thank you for your comment, Luis. It's well known what I've done with my shares by now. So Luis says, I hope this company goes bankrupt. He must be short. William says, is Wish starting to short squeeze? I don't know, William. I haven't checked on Wish. What age rating was Five Nights? I think it was PG-13 or maybe just PG. Anyways, I saw my kid for Halloween. We went out to a haunted house, a big haunted house on 20 acres outside the city. I said, hey, did you watch Five Nights at Freddy's? He's like, yeah, I streamed it. It wasn't that good. He was not impressed. Steven says, have you talked about your friend that recommended Phantom a while back? I haven't talked to him. I know he got burned, though, on a lot of the crypto exchanges that went belly up. I tried to talk to him when he was like, oh, man, this 20% interest, just park all your crypto out there and they'll pay you a sick amount of money. I was like, that don't sound right to me. It don't sound right. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. So I did not participate in any of those brokers. I haven't checked with him on his thoughts on Phantom lately, but I think he got spanked a little bit, losing some money on exchanges that went down. JLN says, why did AMC go down from 1140 to 10? I think that there was probably some pre-earnings volatility. Nobody really knows what the number is going to be. It could be, I mean, if I looked at the call and put quantities, around the current prices, it's pretty even. So, there's a lot of people taking profits, as you've seen over and over, once it crosses $11. I mean, let's be real. You guys know I was buying recently when it was in the 7 to 8 range. A run up to 1140 is a pretty decent trade. There's people playing the volatility. So as that happens, the price comes back down. There's just people trading the volatility, taking short-term gains. It's going to take some major news. There's not high short interest in this stock. right now. You can look at Ortex. Now, if you don't like Ortex, you want to make up your own numbers or believe in someone that gives you a different short interest, that's your prerogative. We've always only talked about reported short interest on this channel. So that is what I go by when I make my trading decisions. As far as I'm concerned, the short interest is relatively low, so there's not really a chance for a short squeeze. I've seen a lot of stocks run up on FOMO, though. So this company needs some major news. Whatever catalyst you're hoping for, be it a FOMO run up or short squeeze, whatever, you need something to get it started. And if you don't have that, then the longer it takes where you don't have that, the more the fundamentals come into play. And we're 2 years in to not having any catalyst now. 2 years is a long time for the weight of fundamentals in a upside down balance sheet to bring the price down. That's unfortunately where we're at right now. Company's low on cash. Working capital is absolutely wrecked in a negative way. Current liabilities far outweighing current assets. Just talking financials, right? The financial statements. When you guys ask why aren't the insiders buying, they read the financial statements. They know balance sheet's fucked. And they're not playing the stock for a short squeeze. We can choose to do that, but they're not the type of people to do that. Look at the book value. Go search AMC book value. It's some huge negative number. By any reasonable financial analysis, it wasn't a great investment. We were playing it for a squeeze. Time ran out. We're at where we're at, and now the company needs to raise cash. But they did raise cash, right? They raised cash, selling that 40 million or so shares, and so that bought them some time. The debt, obviously, the 325 million or so that they raised is not enough to attack any debt. That was just going to be, I hope, put in the bank to be there if they need it, if they have a couple bad quarters in a row. Like if Q4, if we end up losing 200 million, let's just say on a hypothetical, if the retail box office comes in at, domestic box office comes in at 1.8 or 2 billion and we lose a couple $100 million, well, that eats up most of what they just raised. So if I was them, if I was in charge, I'd say just put that money in the checking account just in case shit. And if no bad shit happens, then we got extra money as insurance for the future. And I'd like to see them not raise any more money, but there is high potential that they will, especially if things go bad, if the actor strike's not resolved, if Q4 is not great. Just I look at the entire spectrum of possibilities, right? This is just me, how I look at things. I would love to see the great, but I can't ignore the downside risk. That's how you analyze your investments. You look at everything, not just the rose-colored window. So as I think about all the different scenarios, I'd keep that money in reserve just in case shit, like I said. And then refinance the debt probably sometime between now and July of 2024. They'll refinance the debt. And that debt that's due in 2026, they'll push it out another 5 years. And then, hopefully in 2024, 2025, the box office is booming again. And the movie industry is past all this strike bullshit. And the company can start posting some positive earnings. And then kind of the picture changes. Doozer says, I can't take your advice seriously if you actually like Whoppers. Whoppers is winning the vote, my friend. 55%. Doc Zeno says it was always a fundamental play at root. Shorts tend to not go after companies with great fundamentals. That is an interesting perspective on it, Doc, that I don't think I've ever seen anybody properly verbalize like that. But if you have watched any of my videos where we go through the dashboard, I'm gonna parlay off of what you said there, Doc. If a company has under 10% short interest, I give them a green on risk. When I see high short interest, that tells me there's fundamentally a problem at the company. Exactly what Doc Zeno said. If a company has over 10% short interest, that's a red on my dashboard. That means that should set off some alarms that it's being attacked by shorts for a reason, typically related to bad financials. Now, we sometimes speculate in stocks that have high short interest, even though we know the fundamentals are bad, because we are anticipating or hoping for a short squeeze. Right? We all did that with AMC in 2021, and many people do it on other plays, Finger, GTII. No, never mind. Those don't have high short interest. What am I talking about? Anyways, pick your stock with high short interest. If the short interest is high, the fundamentals are typically a wreck. So you need to know that going into it. And over time, if you end up getting stuck holding those long enough, the fundamentals always end up mattering the most. Over time, Wall Street will grind it the fuck down because they are not scared as long as the fundamentals, the financials, are a mess. That's why, for me, the best thing AMC could do, even though it's not the best situation for shareholders, was to raise cash and start fixing the balance sheet. Otherwise, bankruptcy is a very real option. So yes, Doc Zeno is correct. Shorts do not go after companies with great fundamentals. There's a reason why AMC was shorted and attacked. Same with GameStop back in the day. GameStop rose a boatload of money, and they fixed their cost structure. And that's something that AMC is going to have to seriously look at. If we don't see the box office improving next year to $11 billion, 10.5, they're going to need to get more serious about throwing some more theaters overboard faster and cutting the cost structure. The main thing that's weighing AMC down right now from not showing profits every quarter is just the sheer number of theaters. Like a Cinemark is half our size. They can show a profit on this box office where we're at right now because they're not paying. AMC's paying 2x the fixed cost. So that's something they're going to have to look at. And I don't think that's any secret to the folks at AMC. But they're probably hampered a little bit by leases and dates. And I think that, there will be more theaters closed, some of the older ones, as time goes on. They need to cut costs. Ole Nielsen says overseas shareholders did not have the possibility to vote. Yeah, I understand that a lot of overseas brokers, you have a lot of difficulties, right? Not just with voting, but with getting dividends and all sorts of situations like that. That's not the company's fault. That is just the situation when you're buying American companies through an overseas broker. Sparky, what's up? He says to push that 2026 debt, they need better short-term performance. At 77 cents, AMC 26 debt is 22% yield. They can't push that out right now. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking, Sparky, typically they want to push the debt around 18 months prior to when it's due. And now is a little bit early for that. Plus, they're not in the best financial situation. Well, we'll find out in Q3, but Q4 is not shaping up super great right now. So if I had to put a bet on a date, I'd say middle of next year, you could expect to see some announcement about restructuring the debt. And companies do that all the time, right? That's not a big L for AMC. Oh, they didn't pay off the debt. They just restructured it. It happens all the time. There's no way that AMC is going to generate enough cash to pay off that much debt. And it would not make sense to any shareholder for them to sell enough shares to do that. Could they do that? Yes, they could do it. But like I said, long before the last vote, I don't want to see them sell 550 million shares, fully load up the float and raise a bunch of money, because that would also obliterate our price. And that's not worth it just to raise enough money when we can wait a few more quarters and see how it goes. But as I'm saying all this, the thing that weighs heavy on my mind for AMC and all shareholders is what's the right word? Not pending, not upcoming, just the risk of additional dilution, the risk of additional need for cash. So that is why I'm watching Q4 box office so closely. And I'm going to be telling you guys, go see a damn movie. Because if we lose $200 million in Q4, you're going to get more dilution. Steven says, when will they start playing live concerts? That would be, I don't know. I don't know that have they talked about that? And with the live, oh, you mean, so they play on a stage somewhere, not necessarily down there at the row one on an AMC theater. You're talking about they play on a stage somewhere and it's simulcast live in all AMC theaters. That would be cool. I haven't heard them talk about that, but depending on the band, I would go do that, especially if it was a band that I liked that had no tour date in my area, or if I could do it for $20 instead of $100 a ticket. I don't know. I mean, hopefully the Taylor and Beyonce thing starts opening up some people's eyes to what the potential is. By people, I mean musicians and artists. Richie Rich says, I have 3,000 shares and never received materials to vote on. Are you at a U.S. broker? Depending on your broker, typically you get mail, or you get an email, or you get a notification in your broker app or broker website that you have, something to go check. Like on my Fidelity account, I get a little asterisk in the notifications, and I got to notice that is there. Oh, I have 3 pending stocks to vote on, and you click on it and it takes you through to an electronic version of the proxy statement. JLN says, what's the best resource to find out the current short interest? There are all sorts of websites and brokers, JLN, that will give you for free the exchange reported short interest, which is reported twice a month, but it's also delayed by several weeks. And so that is what we call stale data. Now, this is data that's reported by people that are short, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have Ortex, which is $79 a month, where you get to fill the gap between the exchange reported short interest. They estimate the current short interest based on lenders, not the shorts, lenders telling them what what they have available, what their rates are, and how much they have loaned out. So that's how you get the Ortex estimated short interest. And it's usually pretty accurate. I pay the $79 a month thanks to some of you guys that are members here on the channel. It helps defray some of that cost for all of the tools that I subscribe to and share that information with you guys whenever you ask. But there is unfortunately no way to get timely and accurate short interest data, because the exchange reported data is only twice a month and it's delayed. So there's a couple things I'd like to see fixed. Gary Gensler, if you're listening, I'd like to see, better access to retail traders to actual short interest data that we can use, make it useful, make it timely. There's no excuse for this 1 month net delayed bullshit. And the other thing I would like is more transparency on failures to deliver. When they start getting on the report, how about you tell us who is failing? How about you tell us how many people are failing? How about you provide some drill down so we can see, oh, well, it was on the FTD list for 90 days because broker A failed. Oh, and they cleaned up their shit, but then broker B failed, and then number C, and then D. There's a lot of ways that something can be on an FTD list for a long time, even if they're clearing it up, and then some other guy fails. It's very frustrating, the lack of data that we have, and they say they're here for us. All right, Gary. I don't believe you. You're not doing your job. Sly says Q4 releases are just starting to ramp up this weekend. You are correct, right? The bulk of the Q4 big name movies start either last weekend with Killers of the Flower Moon or this coming weekend or November 17th. But shit, man, we're already halfway into the Q4 quarter. So I hope y'all are planning on seeing a lot of movies in 6 weeks. I'm going to do my best to see all of them. Not every single movie, but every one that is worth watching. Joe says, what do you think of Charles Schwab? My TD is gone. Yeah, my TD got moved to Schwab. It's one of my smaller accounts, Joe. I only use it for trading GameStop. And I'm just, I'm not in that account enough to have an opinion yet. I've heard other people I've talked to say they don't like Schwab and they were going to close their account and move it elsewhere. I still have all my TD money that moved to Schwab is still there, but I'm not trading a lot of GameStop, and so I'm only in that account maybe once a month, and I'm only in it for a few minutes. So hard for me to tell you an opinion on Schwab just yet. What's up, big gums? Not enough people voted, bigums. Surprise, surprise. And everything failed. I know that sounds like I'm telling you a joke, but that is the actual facts. The only one that passed was 2B. Denise Clark and Keri Putnam. Retail apathy. That was the word I was looking for 30 minutes ago. Retail apathy is a common problem in stocks when it comes to voting. And if you are one of those companies that has a high retail shareholder base, then that sort of thing can come down and bite you. Patrick says, I was supposed to vote, but I wasn't given the opportunity to do so. Where are you? Are you in Scandinavia, Patrick? I'm just guessing by your name. Are you in Sweden? Yeah, I knew it. I spent some time in Eskilstuna in Stockholm. I could tell by the way you were typing, Patrick, that you lived in Sweden. Yeah, it is unfortunate that most non-U.S. shareholders are not allowed to vote. But again, that is an issue with your broker, not with AMC. Walt is the man in the middle. Good afternoon, sir. All right, I think we should wrap this up because I have another live stream scheduled in 45 minutes. We're going to hang out for an hour when the market closes. AMC's trading at 10.16 right now. I'm looking at a couple stocks I have on the screen here. Most of them are I'm guessing they're following the SPY, except I was watching Finger. It's not following anything. It's taking a dive bomb. No, I'm not in Finger, but I'm waiting to see if it gets low enough to convince me to try it again. Let me go to 5 minute on the SPY up here. Yeah, everything kind of followed the SPY today. Just a slow ramp down till about lunchtime and then slowly starting to creep back up. So, what are we talking about? Oh, the price of AMC. ABBA country, yes, Dan. I had known of ABBA before I went to Sweden, but only when I got there and I realized how proud they were of ABBA. That was my, like, oh, it's a Swedish band. I did not know that. The ignorance of youth, Dan. I was just a young lad back in that day. So yeah, AMC trailed down till lunchtime. It's slinking back up now. 10:17. We will find out in the next hour or so what the Q3 earnings are. I anticipate they will release it some point after the bell, but before the call. So we'll just hang out and go through the press release and chit chat. Be thinking of the word of the day for the phone call. And maybe I'll line up some shots. So, thank you for hanging out, guys. I got that live. Oh, shit, man. If I do shots, I'm never going to get this Lucid video done. Well, that can wait till tomorrow. Lucid ain't going nowhere except down. 394 on Lucid right now. At any rate, guys, thank you very much. We will see you in 43 minutes.
So you wanna go to war with me? You're talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here.